Robert's my best friend. He's my confidant. He's the person I relied on for so much in my life. We don't have a big family, but we were very tight. We were very close. This isn't just about me. This is about all of Robert's friends, all of his families. We're all here hurting. We're all here to pay tribute to him. Honor, respect, love to an incredibly wonderful man. He's dearly missed. Understanding why he did this is difficult for people. It's difficult for those that were closest to him. Myra, myself, others that are here, interacted with him closer on a regular basis. Everybody has their demons, everybody has their things that haunt them. We don't always know what they are. Sometimes they're quieter behind the scenes than you expect or know. And Robert did a good job of being that leader that he was and holding what was haunting him behind the scenes to himself. And for as much as he coached, taught, mentored, inspired people, I wished he could have done it for himself at the end, but he wasn't able to. And it's hard for us all to understand. There's going to be a couple other folks that are going to stand up here and speak. Myra is going to be one of them. Nate is going to be another one. Lori, wherever she went, the blonde. I'll leave the rest out. And then we're going to open this up to anybody that wants to stand up here and say something, sit up here, say something, stand in the corner and say something. There's no rules. You can say whatever comes to your mind. There's nothing that is to be hidden. We're all here to heal together. We're here to try to understand. We're here to share that love with Robert, for Robert. So whatever comes to your mind, whatever it is, I don't want anybody to hold back or think that there's something they can't say. This is open, it's for Robert, and equally or more important, it's for all of us to heal. So again, I want to thank everybody for being here today and sharing their time with us.
The first question everyone asks when they hear someone's passing is how? And when that answer isn't readily available, the next thought is suicide. And after people come to that conclusion or hear that is the case, the next question is always why? And I can talk about what Robert shared with me, what I observed of him, especially in the last few years. But it's all speculation. Like, no one can really ever answer that question, why. However, Nate, who's going to come up next, can share a lot of insight from his perspective because him and Robert basically lived the same lives growing up. And he understands the mental state that Robert was in and got to in the progression and why it got to be where he was. And I think that will hopefully answer a lot of the questions that a lot of you have. In the end, we'll never really understand, but I feel like what Nate has to say is very valuable. It's very heavy, it's hard to listen to, but I think it's a necessary part of the healing of all of us. And so with that, I'd like to invite Nate to speak.
Thank you. Yeah, so I met Robert about 21 years ago. I started training at a little gym back when MMA was called NHB, No Holds Barred. And he started training about 2 weeks after I did. And I kept hearing about this guy that had a similar childhood to me, and that we would get along and should meet this guy. And at one of the trips, I meet Robert, and we immediately kicked it off because we were raised exactly the same way. And what Myra was talking about was we were both raised in a cult of Jehovah's Witnesses. And Jehovah's Witnesses are still to this day kind of the running joke. I saw it on a TV show, a sitcom, just last week. There was a knock at the door. Oh, it must be Jehovah's Witnesses. Because that's all that they're known for, is going door to door and bugging people. But what you don't know is the darker side of it. And I watched a Going Clear documentary on Scientology, and as I watched that, over and over again, I said, yes, that's my childhood. That's what I went through. And the biggest thing, the most damaging thing, and going to Robert's parents, I'm going to assume that they had unhappy childhoods. And they were looking for something, for some salvation. And someone found them and said, some Jehovah's Witness found them and said, you have this father that's been looking out, looking over you all the time, you just didn't know. And that was their salvation. They found hope, they found happiness. And then they had children, and they said, this is our hope, this is our happiness. And the children said, well, wait, I want to celebrate my birthday. Well, you can't do that. Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. Well, I want to celebrate Christmas. You can't do that. Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. I want to play sports. You can't do that. Jehovah's Witnesses don't do that. So for the kids, it becomes a very difficult burden to live with. And the hardest thing that you are taught is conditional love. Conditional love means, if you do what I tell you to do, I will love you. And in reality, that's not love at all. That's approval. I approve of what you're doing. You are taught that at any time you decide you no longer want to follow this doctrine, you will lose everything you've ever known. I was excommunicated from the church when I was 19. They call it disfellowshipped, for being a young man and doing things that young men like to do. It was sinful. They said, God no longer wants you in his organization. So as I was disfellowshipped, that means I lost all my friends, I lost my family, I even lost my job. I was working for Jehovah's Witness. And it was crushing to me. Being a Jehovah's Witness, I had no friends outside of that organization. I had no one to call to. So at 19, I'm sitting there day after day with nowhere to go, no one to talk to where it drove me nearly insane. And so I worked hard and I got back in and I earned that conditional love again, as long as I never screwed up again. And a few years later, now I wasn't working for a Jehovah's Witness. Now I'd started training in MMA, and I had friends outside of the organization, and they wanted to take that away from me, excommunicate me again. And I said, I don't care. You no longer have anything that I'm going to give you to take away. But the damage was already there. The scars were there. Being raised with conditional love, people have different ways to cope with that. Knowing that at any time that you do not do as expected, your parents will completely cast you out of their lives, your brothers and sisters. I was 14 when my sister was disfellowshipped. I did not talk to her for 12 years. I called her on the way to the hospital as my baby was being born. I was raised being shown that if at any time someone does something that is against the church doctrine, you just cut them out. You no longer see them. You no longer have them in your life. Whether it's a friend or a family member, it does not matter. This is the accepted doctrine. And me, with that carrot being held out in front of me at all times, well, if you're just a little better, if you quit wanting to wrestle, if you quit doing what you want to do, then we'll show you love. Me, it filled me with a boundless rage. Where, oh, you're not going to love me? Well, fuck you. I don't want you to love me. I don't want it. I'll make my own life, and I'll fucking show you. And before my fights, I remember my second fight being in the back room by myself, staring in the mirror saying, I'll fucking show you. I am worthy. I do deserve everything. I do deserve this unconditional love. And I would take that out on my opponents. I would find my value in fighting, in my rage. My brother, it drove him to alcoholism, to where he's in and out of homeless shelters with liver failure, because he never had that base to fall back on, that unconditional love that I can go out and I can try and I can live my life, and I know no matter what, my family is always there supporting me, that I can fall back on them. I have that unconditional love. Without it, it just crushed him. It made Robert into a servant of people, wanting to coach, wanting to fix things, wanting to be there at all times for people, all the while hiding the pain that he went through. When his brother took his own life 3 years ago, his brother's last wishes was that, well, this suicide will then bring my family together. That's how I can make my family whole again in my passing. And it did for a short while, until Robert's parents told him, well, unless you return to being a Jehovah's Witness, we're never going to talk to you again. We're disowning you. And so out he goes into the world at 48 years of age, never knowing unconditional love, never understanding unconditional love. To where every time someone said, I love you, you're like family, his first thought was, well, not really. I don't think so. I'm not really worthy of this. Never able to grasp it and accept it and understand it. And he was so good at hiding his pain. We would hear about him trying to dull the senses like everyone does, with alcohol, with whatever it may be. Unknown to most of us. Still giving and trying to be the best. Well, if I'm just perfect, if I do everything just like I'm supposed to, then I'll be loved. But never believing that he's truly worthy of it. And so at 48, I think this burden was just too much for him. Never feeling worthy. That no matter what he did, no matter how many people told him that he loved him, he wasn't raised that way to understand it and accept that love and bring it in and live and grow with it. And I'm mad. I'm fucking pissed off. Selfishly so. Because I still want him here. No matter what pain he was living with, I still want him here. As my friend, as someone to tell those stories that we had from 20 years ago. But he's not, and I've lost him, and just like all of us have. But I think he made such an indelible imprint on everyone that he touched. How many people he would consistently call and check up on, try to be there with them, whether it's cornering in the cage or cornering in life, trying to be the foundation that they could really call upon, all the while chasing that unconditional love he never felt worthy of. I have a million stories about Robert and I and our wacky adventures, but I felt that this was the most important thing to share. How someone that so many people looked to and loved and cared for and depended on couldn't understand and grasp how he could commit suicide, how he could take his own life. He just couldn't carry the burden any longer. And as I said, I'm selfishly angry, but I understand. Or at least I'm trying to understand. As I said, that childhood made me filled with rage. And I was fortunate enough to have a daughter out of wedlock when I was 28, the worst thing imaginable, who then taught me unconditional love. And to find a good woman to marry and her family to teach me these things. And it's difficult. I still to this day don't understand it, but I'm trying. And I know Robert carried that same burden. And he had the love of so many people, but he couldn't understand it. He couldn't really bring it in. So I hope you don't take it personal. I was talking to someone a few years ago who knew somebody who committed suicide, and I said the same canned response. I said every time I heard of somebody committing suicide, oh, how weak they were, how selfish they were. And the man looked at me and he said, what the fuck do you know about it? He had mental illness. His brain was broken. If you saw him wearing a cast on his arm, you wouldn't call him a pussy. His brain was damaged in ways that you can't see and you can't understand. And I felt foolish, because he was right. Here I sat in judgment of somebody who would do something I would hope I would never do. Who am I to say that? That's not my place. My place is to try and understand. Try and be there for those that are also trying to understand. So we can heal together. I never knew I could cry this hard when I heard I lost my friend. And we had difficulties in the past. We fought like all brothers do, like all friends do. But they were healing, they were on the mend. And that's not what this day is about. This day is about remembrance of a coach and of a friend who was there for each and every one of us. All we had to do was ask. And many times not even ask. He was there, he knew it. So I hope today helps to heal, and I hope everyone can hopefully understand a little bit more about the burden that he was carrying and how difficult it can be. I know Robert would be just amazed to see everyone here. So thank you so much. We had a memorial last weekend in Portland, and it seems like years ago. And it was 7 days. But I wanted to be here to see this memorial / celebration of life, a history and a future that he was involved with in so many different ways. So thank you everyone for being here, and please come up and tell me your stories. I want to hear them. Thank you.